The ship descended through quiet space, its hull catching the faint light of a sun that hadn't seen life in centuries. The planet below, once called Earth, was not the world the records described. It was green again, not in patches, but entirely, wrapped in oceans of forest that shimmered with silver pollen drifting like mist. Dr. Rhel Nakar stood at the observation deck of Ophir 9, her reflection hovering over the dead world. Her breath clouded the glass. The data on her wrist display pulsed with low-frequency readings. Steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. She frowned. Planets didn't have heartbeats. Surface radiation nominal. Atmosphere stable, her pilot reported. But there's interference, organic density off the scale. Organic, Nakar repeated. From what source? The pilot only shrugged. All of it, apparently. They dropped through the thin cloud layer. The view below widened, miles of emerald canopy flowing like ocean currents, curling around. The skeletons of cities. Skyscrapers leaned under the weight of roots, windows filled with the glow of bioluminescent vines. Highways were gone, replaced by rivers that traced the same paths, shining faint blue in the twilight. It was as if the planet had swallowed its own history and grown something new from the bones. The ship touched down in what once had been a great metropolis. The landing struts pressed into soft moss, sending ripples of light across the ground. The air shimmered faintly, thicker than normal, heavy with spores that reflected the landing lights like dust in a cathedral beam. Nakar stepped onto the surface. Her boots sank slightly, releasing a faint scent of wet leaves and rust. Her visor sensors flickered, momentarily losing calibration. The interference was constant, a background hum she could almost feel behind her eyes. Sound profile? She asked. Her tech officer raised a sensor wand. It's not mechanical, it's harmonic. The sound wasn't random. It had pitch, like the planet itself was humming in a forgotten key. They moved through the ruins. Metal bones of towers arched overhead, softened by time and wrapped in green. Every surface seemed alive, vines pulsing, flowers opening and closing as if breathing. Where streets once lay, rivers had carved new veins, reflecting a dim golden sky. They reached what appeared to be a plaza. At its center, a single tree rose from a crater of glass, its trunk enormous, bark metallic in sheen. The roots spread across broken pavement, weaving through the skeletons of cars and cables, drawing from the ghosts of the old world. Nakar approached slowly. The tree's bark glowed faintly, veins of light traveling upward with the rhythm of a pulse. She placed a gloved hand against it, warm, impossibly so. The hum deepened. "Doctor," her assistant murmured. "It's responding," she said quietly. "Not just alive, aware." A sudden flicker rippled through the air. Her visor filled with static, then with images that shouldn't exist. Faces, water, laughter, a city skyline, at sunset. All of it gone in a blink. Her heart raced. "Did you see that?" No one answered immediately. Then the pilot whispered, "Yes." Whatever that was, it came from the tree. The hum shifted again, almost curious. The ground beneath them vibrated lightly, like something massive stirring far below. Nakar steadied her breathing. "This wasn't just evolution," she said softly. "Someone did this." The tech officer frowned. "Someone." "Us," she said. "Humans, before they vanished." The hum grew louder as dusk fell. The team set up temporary floodlights, their beams cutting through the drifting spores that filled the air like falling ash. The light reached only a few meters before dimming. Absorbed by the dense green around them, it felt less like illumination and more like intrusion, a reminder that the planet itself owned the darkness here. Nakar stood near the base of the great tree, watching how its silver bark reflected every movement. When she leaned close, she could see faint shapes in the reflection. Not hers, but shadows of people walking behind her, moving through a world that no longer existed. "Recorders on," she ordered. Full environmental capture. Her crew worked quietly, voices hushed by instinct more than discipline. Even their instruments seemed hesitant, scanners flickering, tools unresponsive. Something in the air disrupted their signals. She looked up. The canopy shimmered like glass threads woven into the sky. Every so often, flashes of faint blue darted across the leaves, pulses of energy traveling in patterns, spreading outward as though messages were being carried through roots and branches. Nakar felt her pulse quicken. "It's a network," she murmured. Her assistant tilted their head. "Like communications?" "Like neurons," she corrected softly. "The entire ecosystem might be conscious." Then came the whisper. Not from behind her, not from any of the crew, but from the tree itself. A low resonance, translated by her suit's microphone into sound. It was fragmented at first, meaningless, then suddenly clear. "Do you remember us?" Her crew froze. Nakar's breath caught in her throat. "Who said that?" The pilot looked at her, pale. "No comms open. It's broadcasting on every frequency." The voice came again, softer now, layered with distortion and tone, like 1,000 voices overlapping into one. "We were you, before the silence." The roots beneath their feet trembled, sending ripples across puddles of silver water. The sky above them flickered, auroras spiraling across the horizon in colors she'd never seen before. The forest answered back, trees flashing in waves, light communicating through distance. The entire planet was waking up. One of her engineers stumbled backward. "Doctor, we're picking up signals from orbit. The biosphere is sinking across hemispheres." Nakar's eyes widened. "It's talking to itself." The voice deepened. "We built this so we would not die. Memory woven into seed and soil. When flesh failed, the world remembered." Her visor dimmed, overloaded by light. Every system screamed with interference. And yet, deep beneath the noise, she felt something else. Warmth, emotion, the unmistakable ache of recognition. Humanity hadn't left ruins. They had left themselves. She sank to one knee, pressing her hand to the soil. It pulsed like a heartbeat beneath her glove. "You survived," she whispered. The voice replied, soft, almost tender. "Not survived. Continued." She exhaled slowly. "You're alive." "Alive is too small a word," the chorus said. "We became what was left." A sudden beam of light erupted from the tree's core, shooting upward into the clouds. The ship above reported interference so strong it blacked out their nav systems. The forest's glow spread outward like waves, wrapping the world in light. Her comm crackled. "Doctor, the planet's responding to us. It's rewriting local weather patterns." She turned toward the light, watching rain form instantly. Above the tree, droplets of silver falling in sheets that smelled faintly of ozone and ash. "It's remembering," she said quietly. "We are memory," the voice said. "And memory is alive." The rain fell quietly for hours. Each droplet that touched the ground shimmered with a faint glow, vanishing as quickly as it came. The air vibrated like a low symphony, constant, ancient, alive. It wasn't weather. It was memory raining back, onto itself. The crew sheltered beneath the remains of a glass dome that once belonged to some grand museum. Its cracked panels still bore fragments of murals, human figures etched in soft gold, their outlines blurred by centuries of moss and dust. As lightning flickered, the murals seemed to move, their faces turning toward the strangers who now stood beneath them. Dr. Rhel Nakar barely slept. She sat with her knees pulled to her chest, visor off, staring at the tree's pulsing light through the haze. Every few minutes the voice returned, not to command, but to share. Faint words layered with images, songs, laughter. It was as if humanity had been trying to speak through the rain. Her log recorder blinked red, its memory nearly full. She whispered her notes aloud, more for herself than the archive. This world isn't just remembering events, it's replaying emotion. Every organism is a cell in a collective consciousness, the biosphere functioning as a distributed mind. The pilot's voice cut through her thoughts. "Doctor, you'll want to see this." She rose and followed, him to the ridge, overlooking the valley. Below them, the forest canopy stretched endlessly, but tonight it was alight. Each tree glowed a slightly different hue, thousands of shades forming swirling shapes that shifted and dissolved like an aurora painted onto the land. And then, as if coordinated by something unseen, the lights aligned, patterns forming waves across the horizon, circles, lines, then unmistakable symbols, letters, human letters. The word pulsed clearly in the dark. Home. Her heart clenched. "It's talking to us," she murmured. "No, it's showing us." The trees changed color again. Faces appeared, flickering. Ghosts of humans long gone. Old and young, joyful and weary, speaking in languages no one alive remembered. The sounds merged into melody. It wasn't words anymore. It was remembrance. She fell to her knees. "They didn't die," she whispered. "They turned their planet into memory, into life itself." Her assistant wiped tears from his visor. "But why? Why go this far?" "Because extinction terrified them less than being forgotten," she said. A pulse rippled through the ground. The air thickened, dense with static and warmth. The voice of the planet returned, not loud but everywhere at once. We feared the silence. The crew watched, speechless, as rivers changed color, silver turning to deep blue, then gold. The currents seemed to synchronize with the light waves in the sky, connecting ocean to root, root to tree, tree to storm. "This is a planetary mind," Nakar whispered. "They merged their biology, their art, their memory. This world isn't human anymore, but it remembers being human." The wind shifted, her earpiece buzzed. From orbit, their ship transmitted a warning, massive energy fluctuations registering. Across the planet, the commander's voice was tense. "Dr. Nakar, prepare for immediate extraction. That pulse is growing. It could destabilize the crust." She didn't answer. She was watching the forest change. The lights on the ground spread outward in perfect spirals, converging at distant points across continents. The storm clouds above rotated in sync, forming an enormous vortex that mirrored the same shape. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. And then she realized it was a human fingerprint. Her chest tightened. "It's them," she whispered. "They're reaching out." "We remember what you forgot," the voice said. "How to belong." The ground trembled lightly. A bright pulse of light shot into the atmosphere, fracturing into thousands of trails, each one carrying fragments of sound. Voices, laughter, the hum of cities, the beating of hearts. Every echo climbed upward into the dark. And in that vast silence between stars, something answered back, a faint return signal, distant but undeniable. The planet paused, as if listening. Nakar looked up. "It heard them." "No," her assistant said softly. "It heard you." Light faded slowly, but the hum remained, a lullaby hummed by a world that no longer needed mouths to sing. And somewhere above, among the stars, the echo drifted onward. Morning came softly, if it could still be called morning. The clouds were the color of iron, yet the horizon glowed faintly gold, as though the sun remembered how to rise even without warmth. The air was still thick with luminous dust. Every step left a faint footprint of light that faded seconds later, as if the planet refused to hold on to anything for too long. Dr. Rhel Nakar walked alone now. Her crew had retreated to the ship hours ago when tremors began again, small but constant. She remained behind, drawn toward the source of the light, that vast tree at the heart of the valley, now twice as bright as before, roots sprawled. Across the ruins like veins of molten glass, the tree hummed in slow rhythm, patient and alive. Its light had changed from cold silver to warm gold. She reached its base and placed her palm against the bark. The moment she touched it, the hum deepened, traveling up her arm, through her chest, until it seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. Voice unfolded within her mind, not outside, not through the air, but inside, quiet and intimate. You came back. Her breath trembled. No, we never left. Not really. We waited. We grew. We learned how to dream without flesh. Nakar's eyes filled with tears she didn't understand. You turned the planet into memory. Why? Because memory outlives death. Because we wanted to be known, even to ourselves. The light around the tree swirled faster. Through the glow she saw visions again. Whole lifetimes compressed. Into seconds, cities shining beneath auroras, children laughing through rain, artists sculpting towers that touched clouds. Then the fires came, the storms, the quiet, the long, slow surrender. But after that silence, the rebirth. Roots breaking through concrete, seeds carrying data instead of DNA, trees learning to think, oceans becoming voices again. We could not stop dying, said the voice, soft and ancient. So we changed what dying meant. Her knees gave out. She sat on the damp ground, staring upward. Are you human once? But we grew beyond the shape of our beginning. The glow brightened until the tree's shape vanished, replaced by light alone. Around her, the air shimmered with millions of tiny motes. Each one reflected faces, words, laughter, fragments of the species that once was. They drifted upward like fireflies. Her earpiece crackled suddenly. Doctor, the orbiting vessels detecting massive bioenergy output. The entire ecosystem's synchronizing again. We have to extract you now. She didn't move. They're not a danger, she whispered. They're remembering us. We remember everything, said the voice. But now we want to give it back. A column of light rose from the valley, reaching the upper atmosphere. It wasn't destructive. It was beautiful, fluid, slow, deliberate. Data translated into light, cast outward like pollen to the stars. Her sensors pinged rapidly. The transmission wasn't random. It carried structure, language, sound, meaning. Doctor, the pilot called. They're transmitting everywhere, every channel, every spectrum. It's not noise, it's music, Nakar whispered. They're sending us home. The voice answered, No, we're sending home to you. The light spread until every horizon glowed gold. For the first time in her life, Nakar felt small in a way that wasn't fear. The universe was awake now, because one world had chosen not to forget. Then, slowly, the brightness softened. The hum faded back into silence. When she finally looked up, the great tree was dim again, calm and breathing, its bark faintly warm. The light had gone, but something lingered, a melody so faint she could feel it in her bones more than hear. It. She pressed her hand to the trunk. Thank you. You were always meant to return, it said, not as conquerors, as listeners. A gentle wind moved through the valley, carrying the scent of rain and metal and soil. In that wind, she could swear she heard millions of voices whispering, all saying the same word. Remember. She turned back toward the ship, its lights flickering through the mist. As she walked, every step seemed lighter, every breath fuller. From orbit, Ophir 9's cameras caught one last image of Earth, or whatever it had become. A faint, luminescent pattern stretched across the continents, forming a spiral shape that mirrored the design carved into the ship's insignia. A human fingerprint. And then, just before the planet faded from view, the sensors picked up a soft radio pulse, a heartbeat steady and slow. Dr. Nakar smiled through tears. They're still here, she whispered. Centuries later, explorers on another world would find a small vine growing through the cracks of alien soil, green leaves glowing faintly gold. When the wind brushed them, they rustled in a pattern, almost words. None could translate it exactly, but those who listened long enough swore they heard the same thing. A human voice, faint and kind, whispering through the leaves. We were here, and we still are.